He spotted them shivering near the swing set. 3 total strangers bracing against the biting autumn wind. A brunette mother with her hair tied firmly back held onto a toddler, and a girl roughly Tara's age. Meticulously mended hand-me-downs covered them, silently screaming of a fierce, dignified struggle against utter destitution. Hollow cheeks made the kid's eyes look enormous, while his heightened werewolf instincts immediately caught the unmistakable, acidic reek of starvation. It was that specific, hollow aroma of surviving on empty stomachs. Staring at strangers snacking nearby, the youngest boy unconsciously moved his jaw, phantom chewing every single bite they took. A dropped cracker sent the hungry boy's gaze darting downward with sheer desperation, prompting his mom to softly redirect his face. Blinking back heavy tears, the blue-eyed mother hugged them tighter, desperately attempting to protect her babies from their agonizing cravings. Their eyes locked in a sudden, jolting connection, mirroring his own soul-crushing fatigue of bearing unbearable burdens for far too long. In that fleeting heartbeat, his whole reality violently tilted. He recognized her stare. Silent panic, heavily disguised by willpower. That fiercely protective grip whenever pedestrians walked by betrayed her terror that the universe would just steal them. A painful familiarity squeezed his lungs hard. 7 years back, he had sported that exact terrified face, holding newborn Tara outside a mini-mart at 2 in the morning with $17 to his name. They were complete strangers to Silver Hollow, appearing out of nowhere this freezing fall. Next to him, his 7-year-old happily babbled about classes, her red braids swinging wildly as she walked. Barely paying attention, his golden gaze locked onto the outsiders, a survival instinct forged by a lifetime of knowing danger always lurks. His kid pulled on his greasy flannel, having spotted them too. "Papa, they look starving." The inner beast clawed anxiously at his consciousness, howling at him to step in and defend the weak. That sour stench of malnourishment sliced straight into his very soul like a sharpened knife. Pressed against her mom, the tiny daughter's frail collarbone jutted sharply against her threadbare pullover. A sudden gust blew food aromas their way, making them snap their heads over like feral creatures before the embarrassed mother forced herself to look away. Humiliation flushed the woman's face. "Let us invite them over," his daughter suggested, instantly moving forward. He yanked her back by the arm, probably grabbing too tightly. Spotting their stares, the mother immediately stiffened her posture. Never show vulnerability, never reveal the absolute panic hiding inside. He knew that exact cocktail of fiery dignity and humiliation. "Not happening, sweetie." "But why not?" "You already know," he murmured privately, hiding the darker supernatural truths his young child could not possibly comprehend. Vigilance is our only option. Constantly. Because mankind is incredibly dangerous, he kept to himself. Isolation was their lone shield. Meanwhile, the staring made the stranger bristle. Radiating quiet dignity, despite her ruins, she softly ordered her kids to scoop up their few pitiful possessions. As their gazes collided again, an invisible barrier shattered deep within his ribs. His emotional fortress splintered. She wasn't judging him, just staring with the utter exhaustion of someone entirely used to letdowns. He was far too familiar with that exact despair. "You literally taught me compassion, Papa," she argued. "Drop it," he commanded, tearing his eyes away and steering his frustrated kid homeward. "Our pantry is completely full," she complained loudly on the trek back. "Plus, nobody uses the guest bedroom. Life is never that easy." "Yes, it is." God, he wished she was right. But charity meant revealing their monstrous secret. He desperately wanted to believe empathy was safe, but letting strangers in always risked destroying their entire, fragile existence. Upon finally arriving at their tiny property adjoined to his auto shop, his daughter's frustration had mutated into sheer rage. Skipping her meal, she slammed her bedroom door, abandoning him to his haunting regrets. "My only goal is protecting your life," he muttered toward her vacant seat, repeating the exact same excuse he had clung to for 7 years. He glared through the glass as nightfall slowly swallowed everything. He fixated on his kids' wolfless nature, shunned by their pack before she even knew what a shifter was. Staying utterly isolated kept both her and the blissfully ignorant townsfolk safe. Attachments were simply too dangerous. Kindness was an expensive risk he absolutely refused to take. Yet that stranger's eyes haunted him. She hadn't condemned him even when he mercilessly turned away. How long had it been since another person gazed his way with such unprotected eyes? He was either a monster to dodge or a tool to exploit, never anything else. Still, the memory of that mother and her little ones refused to leave his mind. 7 years prior, exiled from his kind alongside an infant girl, he endured that exact same struggle, isolated and frantic, holding a helpless baby. During those dark days, he prayed a compassionate passerby would step up and offer some small mercy. Rather, society taught him a bitter lesson. Folks would rather walk a mile out of their way than brush against a stranger's burden. Rough palms scrubbed fiercely over his jawline. Did he mess up by walking away? His inherent protective instincts furiously battled his deeply ingrained paranoia. Yet an undeniable aura set that female apart from the rest. An unexplainable magnetism tugged directly at his inner beast, defying all logic. A profound instinct whispered of finding a mate and pups to a heart he assumed had turned to stone. "They will survive," he muttered, though the lie tasted like ash. This territory possessed plenty of shelters and programs for strays. Even so, with darkness blanketing the territory, his thoughts spiraled around their current shelter. That intense gaze they shared remained permanently burned into his retinas. Would they make it? Chapter 1. Diana. Jolting awake, Diana Collins groaned against the agonizing cramps caused by a freezing wooden bench acting as their mattress. Dawn's biting frost sliced right through her flimsy coat, forcing her to bundle her kids tightly against her chest to trap any lingering body heat. Beside her, Amy and Oliver tossed restlessly, their tiny frames tucked into tight defensive balls against the elements. Thick condensation coated the nearby swings and slides, rendering the playground entirely useless. Not that her little ones possessed the stamina to run around anyway. Fighting off a wave of despair, she squeezed her eyes shut while fierce hunger pangs tore through her abdomen. Nearly 3 entire days had passed since their last proper meal, back when John abandoned them at the rural service station. Remembering his warm smile, her sole ally daring to cross Dominic to save her, sent a painful lump shooting up her windpipe. "Stay completely off the grid," he warned. "Just vanish into the shadows. Maybe then the bastard will finally let it go." Gazing affectionately at her dreaming babies, she forced a steel spine into her posture. Nobody was riding to their rescue. Crossing paths with that gruff father and his little girl yesterday hammered that brutal truth home. Briefly, an unspoken connection seemed to flare deep within his golden irises. A mutual understanding of profound hardship. Yet he simply spun on his heel and marched his kid in the opposite direction. Regardless of past disappointments, a glimpse of pale parchment suddenly snagged her attention. An unknown object rested squarely on the wood next to them. Gently transferring her daughter's resting head, she leaned over to grab a bundled-up parcel concealed inside mundane butcher paper. To her utter shock, steaming takeout boxes sat nestled within. Fluffy hotcakes, crispy meat, fresh berries, and fluffy eggs greeted her senses. A trio of fruit beverages sat perfectly arranged next to 3 foil-wrapped breakfast buns. Attached was a roughly scribbled message stating, "For later." Frantically scanning the desolate recreational area, she desperately tried to spot their secret guardian angel. What kind of person drops off a feast like this? More importantly, why vanish instead of showing their face? "Mama?" her eldest mumbled, rubbing the sleep from her eyes while sitting upright. "Is something cooking?" "A morning feast, baby," she choked out, fighting a fresh wave of tears. "A stranger brought us a meal." That magic word instantly roused the youngest, his sapphire gaze popping open to behold the massive spread laid out nearby. Quickly rationing out the bounty, the mother kept barely a fraction for her own starving body. Curiously, her son paused before digging in. "Did a bad guy put yucky stuff in it?" he questioned with heartbreaking sincerity, forcing a gentle chuckle from her lips as she fondly ruffled his messy curls. "It is perfectly safe, little wolf." Overwhelming gratitude mixed with fierce resolve as she observed her babies finally filling their empty bellies. Sleeping rough ended today. Depending on phantom generosity was a fool's game. "Mama has to run a quick errand downtown," she instructed her daughter once the containers were scraped clean. "Keep a close eye on your brother, okay? Do not leave this sandbox so I can spot you from the sidewalk." Taking her responsibilities incredibly seriously, the young girl nodded, instantly transforming into a fiercely vigilant guardian. "We've got this handled, Mama." Power walking through the heart of the settlement, she mentally mapped out dry hiding spots for upcoming storms. A run-down bodega on the nearest block looked highly promising, bustling enough to blend into the crowd, yet tiny enough to lack any serious surveillance cameras or guards. A rusty brass chime announced her arrival as she pushed through the glass double doors. Faking a casual stroll down the aisles, she mentally tallied up absolute essentials before her breath completely hitched in her throat. That broad-shouldered stranger from the park was standing right there, deeply inspecting a bottle of automotive lubricant by the register. Spinning around instantly, she furiously shoved down a spike of bitter anger. Honestly, in his shoes, would she have risked her own safety for a stranger? Biding her time until the old clerk looks away, Diana holds her breath. She quickly slides some bread and peanut butter down into the depths of her massive tote. Tossing in a tiny pack of sweets for the kids, she pivots toward the exit with her pulse pounding wild. "Hold up, lady," the proprietor barks, freezing her in her tracks. "You left something behind, didn't you?" She pivots at a glacial pace, locking eyes with a bald fellow whose uniform bears the name Gary. "Dump the purse," he demands with gentle steel, "before I tell Lynn to dial the sheriff." Nearby, a silver-haired clerk is already gripping the receiver. All the strength drains from her knees. If the cops take her, who will protect Amy and Oliver? Dominic could track them through the network in a matter of days. "This is all a big mistake," she stammers, her whisper trembling. "Nothing to misunderstand," Gary shoots back, holding his palm out for the bag. Those fleeting moments age her a full 100 years. Blood roars through her ears as her palms sweat and her mouth turns to dust. Why did she risk this? When had she become desperate enough to become a common thief? Frantically searching for an excuse, her mind goes completely blank, while the manager just waits with a deep scowl. "I've got her bill." A rich, gravelly timbre makes her jump. Yesterday's mysterious stranger materializes at her side, his imposing silhouette seamlessly blocking the owner without making a sound. "Stay out of this, Hayes," Gary warns, though his edge blunts. "Add it to my account." The newcomer keeps his piercing gaze locked on her. "Cover her entire hall." Lynn speaks up, receiver hovering in the air. "Jackson." "Just let it go, Lynn." The hushed command carries an odd weight, prompting the old woman to quietly hang up. The owner lets out a heavy breath. "You're racking up quite the debt lately." Tearing his attention away from her, Jackson dips his chin. "You'll get every penny by Friday, I swear." Rooted to the spot, she drowns in a mix of pure shame and profound relief, while he lightly grasps her arm. He steers her out into the open air, where his golden irises capture hers, an electric, silent exchange sparking between them. "For what reason?" she barely chokes out. His stoic face betrays nothing but a ticking muscle in his cheek. Eventually, he moves toward the curb, muttering, "Let's move. A storm is brewing." Chapter 2. Jackson. He paces beside the enigmatic woman along the main avenue, fists shoved deep into his coat and posture rigid. Apologizing for his previous behavior tempts him, yet doing so requires spilling secrets he absolutely cannot share. Tara's life depends on his utter silence. "Name is Jackson," he drops into the quiet air, drawing a quick sideways look from her. "Stealing isn't my nature," she counters, lifting her head proudly. "I simply—" He cuts her off. "Save your breath. I understand." She halts entirely, making him break in his tracks. "Really? My current existence feels like a tragic French novel. Ever opened Les Miserables?" Before he can even react, she scoffs. "Obviously not." He keeps his mouth shut. "My point is," she presses on, Staring down starving kids changes a person. You just— Her sentence fades into nothing. He dips his head slightly. He truly knows that exact dark place, even if he stays quiet. Nearing the recreation grounds, she gives a soft cough. "Call me Diana," she offers, extending delicate fingers and an olive branch. He contemplates the gesture for a heartbeat before grasping it. Her surprisingly strong hold contrasts with her silken skin against his calloused grip. "I owe you," she murmurs, "for the rescue back there and today's morning meal. It made my little one's day." "What meal?" he interjects sharply, leaving her batting her eyelashes in pure bewilderment. "Those provisions left on our seat." "I didn't leave anything," he replies, and they lock eyes in total bafflement. Realizing their fingers are still intertwined, he drops her hand like a hot coal. Joyful giggles drift over the breeze, and as they turn the bend, they catch sight of 3 youngsters swinging freely. Supposed to be in class, Tara is currently launching Diana's boy into the air, while the other little girl bounces with joy nearby. "Papa!" The little girl waves her arms frantically. "Check out who I bumped into." Instantly, the puzzle pieces snap together. "The morning food," he breathes out. "Tara did it." His chest tightens with a tangled knot of annoyance and fierce paternal pride. "She has a beautiful soul," the mother notes softly. "I warned her to keep her distance," he confesses, but she inherited her mother's relentless streak. The revelation spills out unchecked, icing the blood in his veins. "Idiot," he curses internally, frustration burning through him. Memory has a habit of slipping. Slips past Bridget's betrayal, past the coldness in her gaze whenever she viewed their child. Witnessing Tara's unyielding spirit right now, he catches glimpses of pure resilience, a fire that might have sparked from either bloodline. Then the bitter truth hits, leaving him loathing the fact he'd ever credit that female for the magnificent soul his girl grew into. Catching the sudden shift in the air, Diana nervously ventures, "Is her mom?" Then pauses, struggling to navigate the awkward silence. She lacks a mother, Jackson longs to snap, since to him, that title holds no weight here. There was only a biological vessel. Unwilling to spark unwanted curiosity, he merely grunts, "Gone." The single syllable drops like a heavy stone, laced with unintentional venom. "Bury it," Jackson fiercely commands his own mind, shoving the shadows back into their mental vault. A soft clearing of Diana's throat snaps him back, bringing his attention to her fingers resting against his arm. "I understand," she murmurs softly. "My little ones lack a dad, too." His gaze instantly locks onto hers. Pure, unadulterated empathy shines from her features. Walking toward the play area side by side, her offspring instantly dart in their direction. The young lad, recently introduced as Oliver, clings tightly to her calves, whereas the daughter, Amy, lingers a few steps behind. "Mommy, Tara taught us the trick to soaring way up on the swings," the boy shouts eagerly, the previous starvation completely erased by youthful thrills. Tara hops down from the playground equipment, marching toward her dad with a defiant, brace-for-impact posture. "Slipped a message into your lunch," she states, chin jutting out. "Plus, I bought the snacks with my own pocket money." Dropping into a low squat, Jackson lets his massive palms rest softly against her small frame. An overwhelming wave of guardian instinct washes over him, effectively drowning out the lingering gloom. "You made a very sweet choice," he rumbles softly. Shock rounds Tara's gaze. She darts looks from her dad to the strange woman, a fragile spark of optimism lighting up her youthful features. Standing tall, Jackson inhales sharply. Reconnecting with Diana's stare, the raw vulnerability swirling in her irises hits him like a physical blow. "Whipping up a pasta dish this evening," he mutters, the invitation dragging itself from his throat. "Basic stuff, yet I always cook an absolute mountain." A beat of silence. "Bring the little ones over to eat." Utterly blindsided, Diana stammers. "That is incredibly generous, really, though I—" "Please come," Jackson interjects in a low rumble. His attention drifts to the kids mingling effortlessly, bonded like ancient friends. "Tara needs the company," he confesses, startling himself with the raw truth. Before this very second, He completely missed the rigid, guarded exhaustion etched deeply into the woman's delicate features. Yet the sudden, brilliant grin that dawns on her lips shifts her whole aura. "I appreciate it," she breathes softly. Jotting his location onto a scrap sheet, he then guides his daughter away from the green space, heading for the campus. Near the wrought iron entrance, he casts a glance over his shoulder, catching Diana flanked by her offspring while she unfolds the slip. A startled giggle rings across the grass, as radiant as sudden daylight, forcing a smirk onto Jackson's face. "What's so funny?" Tara demands. "Pen and paper magic," he teases. "Spill it. What's the secret?" His lips curl upward into a devastatingly roguish grin. "Just told her I totally understand the whole Jean Valjean struggle," he murmurs softly. Chapter 3. Diana. Fingers wrapped firmly around Oliver's tiny hand, Diana navigates the encroaching shadows of dusk, tracking down the provided street number. Amy lags behind, absolutely exhausted yet far too starved to utter a single gripe. Overhead bulbs buzz into existence upon hitting Maple Avenue. An ink-dark vehicle creeps by them, its glass entirely blacked out. Her pulse wildly misfires. Dominic's enforcers always drove those exact, sinister rides. Faceless, polished, deadly. Yanking Oliver close, she instantly speeds up their walk. "Ouch, Mommy, my fingers," Oliver whines. "My apologies, darling baby." Relaxing her hold, she continuously checks their 6 o'clock. Merely chasing shadows? The phantom vehicle finally swerves out of sight down an alley. His residence throws her off. It's a humble cottage adjoined to a workshop, immaculately maintained with vibrant blossoms guarding the porch. Golden illumination bleeds through the glass, while heavy scents of roasted herbs welcome them right before the little girl yanks the entryway wide. "You're here!" Grinning ear to ear, the kid executes a dramatic curtsy, welcoming them indoors like royalty. The feast proves basic yet remarkably abundant. Heaping pasta bathed in rich ragu, buttery toasted slices, and fresh greens. Beyond Oliver bending close to stage whisper, "Did he put toxic potions in this?" The group falls into an effortless, breezy conversation. Tara actually coaxes the silent Amy out of her shell, debating comic book vigilantes. Diana genuinely forgets when her offspring last giggled this carelessly. Jackson stays quiet, yet his piercing gaze absorbs absolutely everything. He tops off her plate twice without a word, instinctively picking up on her hesitation to eat her fill. Tara is practically buzzing with energy once dinner wraps up. "Please, can we go play out back?" Jackson pauses before giving a curt nod. "Keep to the yard. Watch yourselves." The edge in his voice catches Diana's attention. It isn't just typical dad worry. It feels much heavier, almost pointed. The kids sprint out into the enclosed yard, their joyful shouts floating back in through the cracked window. Now, alone, Diana starts clearing dishes over Jackson's objections. A comfortable quiet settles between them until she catches him staring out at the kids. His shoulders are tight with stress. "You stress over her constantly," she notes softly. Those striking amber eyes snap to her, analyzing. "Who wouldn't?" "Touché." She scrubs a dish, offering a faint smirk. "Listen, I need to confess something big." He immediately goes rigid. "Yeah? Your pasta sauce is an absolute crime." He just blinks at her before a startled chuckle breaks loose. A deep, rumbling sound that completely changes his demeanor. "Really that awful?" "The absolute worst," she teases. "But beggars can't be choosers." Their chuckles slowly melt away into an easy quiet. She gazes out at the kids playing tag, the pale moonlight illuminating their darting figures. "I'm on the run," she blurts out of nowhere, unable to hold it in. "From a very bad man. That's why we're laying low out here in Silver Hollow." She pivots to look him dead in the eye. "We're hitting the road at dawn. Thought this place was an ideal hideout, but after the shop incident..." Jackson methodically wipes his hands on a rag. "Locals around here keep to themselves," he points out measuredly. "Gary keeps his mouth shut. Can't risk it. We need to stay mobile." She fakes a grin. "I really appreciate dinner, seriously. It means the world." His gaze drifts from the yard back to her. A sudden resolve hardens his features. Don't go. Excuse me? I've got an extra bedroom. Use it while you figure out your next move. His tone is rough around the edges, yet totally firm. This town is perfect for falling off the map. His sudden generosity strikes her like a punch to the gut. On pure instinct, she tackles him in a hug. He freezes up instantly before tentatively wrapping his arms back around her. I owe you, she murmurs into his shirt, feeling completely flustered by the unshed tears burning her eyes, yet paralyzed in his hold. His pulse thumps in a heavy, rhythmic beat against her ear. Finally, after months of terror, she actually feels secure. Chapter 4. Diana. She flawlessly tosses a flapjack in the pan, hyper-aware of his gaze lingering from the hall. 21 days since they first broke bread, and it still blows her mind how naturally their makeshift family clicked. The 3 kids are clustered around the dining table, scribbling in books as breakfast cooks. Their lively banter breathes a kind of life into the home she never thought she'd see again. Her little ones are absolutely thriving. The night terrors about Dominic are history, swapped out for sweet dreams of monkey bars with his new buddy. Even Amy, who usually treats outsiders like radioactive material, actively hunts him down for math help. Seeing her rely on him is a beautiful shock to the system. Then there's sweet, fiercely loyal Tara, tackling her big sister duties with a fierce passion that melts Diana right to her core. The guy is a total godsend. While Dominic treated the kids like chess pieces, burying them in flashy toys to manipulate her and ghosting them otherwise, Jackson actually treats them like human beings. He knows Oliver prefers diagonal sandwich cuts, that Amy's favorite reading nook is the bay window, and that a loud crack of thunder means they both need a comforting hug. It's a silent, rock-solid, no-strings-attached kind of love. As for herself, well, she definitely gets caught staring at the man way too much. She tracks how those intense, golden eyes melt around the kids, or how one of his scarce grins completely lights up his rugged features. Those midnight chats once the house goes dark are easily the best part of her routine. Just 2 damaged souls feeling out common ground and delicately tiptoeing around their baggage. Earth to the chef, he teases, snapping her out of her daze. Past the maple? Flapjack time is approaching. Settling in around the table, Tara takes a massive bite and lets out an exaggerated groan. Seriously, Dad, can she just be our personal chef from now on? She questions, sticky syrup coating her chin. Do not forget that egg disaster from last Tuesday. Wait, my cooking was... Jackson scrambles for an excuse. Charred, Amy chimes in cheerfully, sending the 3 kids into fits of laughter. Glancing across the breakfast spread, Diana locks gazes with him, a deep affection blossoming as he looks utterly embarrassed. This profound sense of home, of finding her pack, feels like an impossible dream come true. Once they finish eating, the couple hustles the kids out for class. Registering the siblings at the local elementary school went smoother than anticipated, and a serene smile touches Diana's lips as she observes them holding Tara's hands, their heavy school bags swaying rhythmically on the walk inside. The kids are truly finding their rhythm, Jackson murmurs, tracking her gaze. All because of you. She softly caresses his forearm. I owe you so much for... Stop. There is no debt here, he cuts her off. Yet his demeanor darkens instantly, an uneasy tension settling over his face. Listen, we need to talk about Tara, about what we really are. We are not entirely... A piercing trill from the landline shatters the confession. Bewilderment washes over the man, his gaze snapping rapidly between her and the blaring device. Better answer it, she urges, swallowing a bitter pill of frustration. His interrupted confession carried heavy weight. Dragging his feet, he crosses the room to grab the receiver. Yeah? While she goes back to scrubbing plates, the sudden, unnatural stiffness of his spine snaps her attention back. His complexion turns deathly pale, gripping the plastic tight enough to shatter it. Is she safe? The other kid? He forces the words out smoothly, yet sheer terror bleeds into his gaze. A primal, untamed fury distorts his handsome face, forcing her body to instinctively retreat. Understood, I am on my way, he mutters, slamming the phone down in a complete trance. What is wrong? Rushing over, she firmly grasps his bicep to ground him. Beneath her touch, he feels like a tightly wound spring. The principal called, he murmurs blankly. Tara sank her teeth into another student. She stares, absolutely certain she misheard. Like a playground squabble? She asks, desperately attempting to keep the mood breezy. Toddlers snap occasionally. We will survive this. However, his absolute panic paints a far darker picture. Snatching his coat and truck fob, he moves with a frantic, erratic energy. The laid-back chef from breakfast vanished, leaving behind a complete stranger in her kitchen. A man consumed by an irrational level of dread over a minor schoolyard spat. You have no idea, he breathes. A guttural, animalistic edge coats his words, sending a freezing shudder racing straight down her spine. I need to leave immediately. Not without me, she demands, thoroughly alarmed by his spiraling anxiety. The neighbor can watch the other two. Please, just tell me the truth. What are we facing? Stopping at the exit, he glances back, his deep brown irises suddenly igniting into a vibrant, glowing gold under the sun. In that split second, a predatory beast stares through him, a monstrous entity entirely disconnected from mortal constraints. Diana. He chokes on his explanation, teeth grinding together while warring with his own instincts, yet remaining utterly mute. No phrase could possibly explain the hidden supernatural truth to an ordinary woman. She simply stares back, radiating pure empathy and zero condemnation. Grasping his trembling palm, she holds tight as violent shivers rack his normally steady grip. Drive, she commands softly, realizing that demanding the truth right now might break him. Tell me everything in the truck. Jogging toward the vehicle, a sinking dread convinces her this secret involves far more peril than a biting toddler. That feral glare, that guttural growl, and the chaotic urgency fueling every single stride. A massive storm is brewing. Now, she stands on the precipice of discovery. Chapter 5. Diana. Gripping the passenger armrest for dear life, she braces as his battered pickup tears through the neighborhood, drifting around sharp bends. He strangles the leather wheel with bloodless fingers, grinding his molars until a vein aggressively pulses in his cheek. His panic was completely unprecedented. It wasn't simple concern. Sheer dread radiated from him. Ease up on the gas, Jackson. You're freaking me out. Her words barely registered. He kept his golden gaze locked ahead, constantly checking the mirrors like they were being hunted. I saw this coming, he murmured to the dashboard, rather than to her. I suspected the risks, yet I allowed you into our home. Now everyone's at risk. Diana blinked at him in total confusion. Risk? It's literally just kids fighting at recess. You're making zero sense. A deep, animalistic rumble laced his tone. This specific nightmare has haunted me from day one. Bringing you into my pack was a huge mistake. Pain flared in Diana's chest, though she shoved the ache aside. Someone got nipped, Jackson. Toddlers do that. That doesn't turn them into beasts. He let out a dark, grating chuckle. You're completely clueless. So enlighten me then. Her temper finally flared. You're reacting as if your daughter slaughtered someone. His facial muscles locked tight. Gently, she rested her palm against his tense muscles. Breathe. It was just a nip. Never tell me to breathe. A vicious, predatory growl ripped from his throat, making her flinch backward. His irises suddenly transformed. Bright amber flared in his pupils. Surely just an optical illusion. A second later, guilt completely washed over his features. My apologies. It's just... We absolutely must hurry. The school's red brick exterior loomed ahead like a fortress. He slammed the brakes, leaping from the vehicle while she was still fumbling with her harness. Walking down the administrative corridor felt like marching into enemy territory. He prowled forward, powerful muscles coiled tightly underneath his faded plaid button-down. Stepping inside, Diana quickly assessed the room. Little Tara sat rigidly, chin raised proudly, while her terrified siblings huddled nearby. Sitting opposite the trio, a similarly aged boy was putting on an exaggerated crying display. while an overbearing woman stood guard behind him. The administrator, a gentle fellow with a receding hairline, stood up to greet them. "Appreciate your prompt arrival, Mr. Hayes." "Show me the teeth marks," Jackson growled, skipping the pleasantries. The matriarch rose, her high-end designer clothes and glowing jewelry practically screaming wealth. "Your savage daughter has thoroughly terrified my precious son," she declared, her tone sharp as glass. "I expect an instant expulsion." Completely disregarding her, Jackson drops to eye level with the kid. "Point to the wound." "How dare you speak to my child?" The fierce woman shielded her son's torso. "Sir," the administrator intervened softly, "let's handle this situation peacefully." "Immediately," he commanded, radiating an aura that demanded absolute obedience. Diana simply observed, crouching down to gently hold her kid's trembling fingers. This intensely primal side of him was entirely new. Hesitantly, the kid rolled up his cuff, exposing flawless skin. 0 punctures or scratches. The sheer terror in Jackson's expression melted into utter bewilderment. "The skin is unbroken." "Well, she attempted it," the posh woman argued. "She absolutely terrorized him." The headmaster coughed politely. "Truthfully, ma'am, we've already interviewed multiple bystanders. It appears your son was harshly bullying the siblings. He used extremely derogatory language." Raising her solemn gaze, the little girl clenched her jaw. "He called us filthy gutter trash," she hissed. "Claimed his mother insisted we weren't welcome." "What exactly is gutter trash?" the youngest whispered. A humiliated red stained the wealthy woman's cheeks. "My boy would never." The administrator pressed on. She stepped in to protect her pack. She promised to sink her teeth into him if he wouldn't back off. However, the recess supervisor confirms no physical assault happened. Diana saw the massive weight visibly lift off his broad shoulders, leaving him completely drained but overwhelmingly thankful. He mirrored a death row inmate who just received a pardon. She acted like a monster. The boy whined, obviously frustrated that his victim act was failing. "She even snarled at me like a wild animal." He shifted his focus to his little girl, who stared back with unwavering golden eyes. "Did that actually happen, sweetie?" She gave a single, firm nod. "He attacked the little ones. I promised to shred him if he didn't quit." She tilted her head defiantly. "I wasn't actually going to shift, Papa. I know we have to stay hidden." Silence dominated the return trip. Completely drained by the morning's drama, the kids slept soundly in the back, abandoning the adults to the vibrating motor and an ocean of unspoken secrets. She couldn't stop staring at him, struggling to connect the utterly panicked alpha from before with the cool, collected guy steering through the fall sunlight. He fidgets under her intense gaze. "I appreciate it," she eventually murmurs. He shoots her a startled look. "Why?" "For protecting my kids. For being willing to fight the entire administration over their cruelty." Her fingers gently brush his sleeve. "That matters to me." His extended silence makes her doubt he will answer at all. Once he does, his tone is quiet and tightly restrained. "You need to look for another place." The sudden rejection strikes her like a punch. She studies the side of his face, desperately hunting for the lingering affection from their morning meal. "Excuse me?" she chokes out, convinced she misunderstood. "Staying here puts you and the little ones in danger." He doesn't look away from the asphalt. "Today's incident? That was a threat. Our luck could run out." "A threat? Come on, no one got hurt. It was just a mix-up." His grip on the wheel turns white-knuckled. "I refuse to gamble with a second attempt." She glances behind her at the dozing kids. Tara leaning against Amy, while Oliver snuggles close to his sibling. 3 weeks was all it took for them to bond completely. Separating them now breaks her heart. "Absolutely not," she declares. He whips his gaze toward her. "Pardon?" "I refuse," she repeats, folding her arms across her chest. Not without a legitimate reason. He brakes as the intersection turns red. Staring blindly through the windshield, his jaw clenches in obvious tension. "You have no idea what you're demanding," he finally groans. "Explain it then." Traffic starts moving, but he stays put. A horn blares angrily from the vehicle behind them. Later, he whispers faintly. The words barely register. Once the little ones are out, I'll reveal it all. Chapter 6. Jackson. He hauls Oliver inside, Diana scooping up Amy, with an exhausted Tara shuffling closely behind. Exhausted by the drama, the kids stay fast asleep while being tucked in. He hovers near the threshold, observing their tiny bodies rising and falling peacefully under the covers. Such a calm, wonderfully ordinary sight. Knowing what he has to do next tears at him. Downstairs, he tries to stay distracted by cleaning up the meal they'd left behind during their frantic morning dash. He scrubs every ceramic piece perfectly, dragging out the chore indefinitely, acutely conscious of her standing right there. "Are we actually having this conversation?" she demands with firm resolve. He carefully places a bowl down. "The incident?" "No, I'm talking about you suddenly kicking us out on the street." Stepping closer, she blocks his escape route, and doing so without offering a single valid excuse. Seeing the sheer pain in her azure stare forces him to look away. He goes for another cup, but she firmly grabs his wrist. "Hey, face me." He complies, clearly dreading it. Over these last 3 weeks, her features have become ingrained in his mind. That tiny wrinkle of concern, the stubborn tilt of her chin when she refuses to back down. "I laid all my cards on the table," she insists. "I'm owed that exact respect." He deliberately wipes his palms on a rag. Ignorance is bliss in some cases. "Bullshit." Her tone grows icy. "I spilled my guts to you." "Really? You mentioned escaping." "That was all. What else is there?" "I explained I was hiding." Her anger finally bubbles up completely. "I cleaned houses for Dominic Glover, that billionaire industrialist. Exactly him. He completely brainwashed me into being with him. I had his babies because I swallowed his lies about getting a divorce. Once I actually found the nerve to walk away, he swore he'd steal them or do something deadly." She stops, breathing heavily, nails digging into her palms. He stays mute, crushed underneath the burden of his hidden truth. "I gave you my entire story." Closing the distance between them, she bites out, "All the pathetic, messy details, yet you're throwing us out with zero context." He pivots back around, clutching the marble counter tightly. "My secret is totally different from yours," he growls, muscles coiled tight. "Mine actually keeps you alive. You don't get to choose that." She yanks his shoulder, making him confront her head-on. "I am completely done with guys playing God with my life while keeping me in the dark." Her words cut deep. He desperately craves to be better than her ex, to earn her unwavering faith. Yet how could he possibly confess his true nature, or Tara's? "You'd think I was crazy," he mutters in defeat. "Test me." He scrutinizes her expression. The fiery resolve, the deep pain, the raw care. Over 3 weeks, she had somehow anchored his soul in completely unexpected ways. "I'm a werewolf," he states blankly. Diana studies him in dead silence, her features turning to stone. "That isn't funny, Jackson. I mean it. You are a human being, not some stray dog." She folds her arms defensively. "Just admit you're hiding things instead of spinning these insane fairy tales." "It isn't a fairy tale." His irritation flares. "That is exactly why I panicked when Tara snapped at someone. Her saliva holds the shifter gene. It's literal poison to normal people. A single nip is lethal." Shaking her head, Diana steps back. "Enough, please. If you want to kick us out, just be a man and say it." "I am telling you the truth," he shouts. "Why on earth would I lie about this?" She squares her shoulders. "All right then, prove it." "Diana, please." He runs a hand through his hair. "You don't want—" "Prove it!" she shrieks. He glares. "You really want the truth?" His tightly held leash snaps under the weight of her hostility. "Perfect. Here it is." The transformation hits him before she can even blink. Skeletons snap and restructure. Coarse fur bursts from his pores while his jaw stretches forward, snapping shut with razor-sharp fangs. The shriek dies in her chest. She scrambles backward, slamming hard against the fridge as every drop of blood leaves her face. "Dear Lord," she chokes out, the sound barely a breathless whisper. "Oh my God." Jackson violently reverses the shift, a process far more agonizing than turning wolf. Chest heaving and half naked, he reaches out for her.
"Diana, please, just let me explain." "Get away from me," she whimpers, entirely consumed by terror. "Do not touch me."
She bolts down the hall toward the kid's bedroom. Jackson can hear her panicked hissing, followed by the groggy mutters of children being violently roused. Trembling violently, he drags his discarded shirt back over his shoulders. "Mom, what is going on?" Oliver's drowsy voice echoes from the back. "We need to leave, sweetheart, right this second." "Why?" Amy whines. "It is pitch dark outside." "Do not argue with me, Amy." Rooted to the kitchen tiles, Jackson listens to the chaotic scuffle of footsteps and bewildered questions. Diana gives clipped, breathless replies. When she finally emerges, dragging the kids behind her, she refuses to even look his way. "Diana," he pleads. Halting at the entryway, she wears a devastating look of pure, horrified betrayal. "Stay the hell away from my family," she breathes. And just like that, they vanish, the heavy click of the lock sealing his fate. Jackson collapses to the linoleum, burying his face in his palms. His inner beast screams in agony, yet his human half gets it completely. He just burned down the only real shot at happiness he has found in years. Chapter 7. Jackson. His heavy wrench smashes loudly against the engine block as he toils away under the hood of Mrs. Peterson's sedan. The sharp, greasy stench of motor oil usually grounds him, but today, diving into mechanical repairs offers absolutely zero comfort. His brain is stuck on a horrible loop of Diana's expression, the absolute dread and broken trust flashing behind her eyes endlessly. 30 solid minutes of wrenching hasn't numbed the crushing weight in his chest. Actually, it hurts worse. Uninvited, Bridget's cruel face suddenly invades his thoughts. The raw revulsion, the cold abandonment. He remembers how she physically recoiled from their newborn baby, treating Tara like some sort of filthy plague. Even 7 years later, the agony of that exact moment still bleeds like a freshly sliced vein. And now thrown away again, this time by Diana. "Dad?" Tara's tiny voice shatters his thoughts. He jerks upward, slamming his skull into the hood with a muffled curse. "You are supposed to be in bed, little one," he murmurs, forcing a calm tone while grabbing a shop towel to scrub the grease off. Tara completely brushes off the comment. Her bright amber eyes sweep the empty garage before locking dead onto his miserable expression. "Where did Diana and the kids go?" Jackson swallows over a massive lump. How on earth does he break this to a little girl when he is still reeling? "They needed to head out, honey. Right in the dead of night." Tara's confused frown quickly melts into sharp realization. "What did you do?" "Me?" Jackson balks. "I did not do a single thing." "Liar." She rolls her eyes dramatically. "You are a terrible liar, Daddy." All the fight drains right out of Jackson, leaving him bone-tired. "I handled things the way I should have from day one," he sighs. And Diana walked out, as she had every right to. Tara blinks, sizing him up before her lip juts out. "This has to do with Bridget, right?" she demands, arms crossed tightly. Hearing that name punches him straight in the gut. Why bring her up? Why is she even thinking about that woman? "This does not—" He scrambles to find a gentle way to say it. "Listen, your mother is not— That woman is not my mother," Tara snaps, her voice ringing with a fierce, blinding loyalty to something he cannot pinpoint. He flinches internally. Here he is wallowing in his own heartbreak, completely ignoring the fact that his daughter carries a much heavier burden. His little girl was flawless from birth, yet cruelly tossed aside simply for lacking a wolf spirit. "Oh, baby." He gently takes her hand. "I am incredibly sorry." "Well, I am not," she cuts in. "Do you honestly think I give a damn about Bridget? I don't need her at all, Dad. I have got you." Her tiny features pinched together in deep concern. "I just hate seeing you so miserable." The sheer empathy from his kid shatters him, bringing him straight to his knees. She has always been way too observant for her age. Yet facing this profound depth of compassion completely dismantles his last remaining defenses. Every single tear he has swallowed over the past 7 years, through the brutal exile, the harsh rejections, and the endless, hollow nights, finally breaks free. "You deserve so much better," he sobs out. "A real mom who adores you, a pack that embraces you, a genuinely normal life." "You've always been enough for me, Dad," Tara declares, clinging to him with unshakable resolve. He crushes her to his chest, massive shoulders trembling as he swallows back tears over his courageous daughter, abandoned by the woman who birthed her long before she could grasp why, soothing his heartache, when he ought to be her shield against life's harshness. Yet this new woman isn't like the rest. Pulling back to catch his eye, the girl insists, "She didn't abandon us." "She absolutely did," he mutters bitterly. "The moment my true nature came out, she bolted, exactly like—" The parallel chokes him. "Dad," she chides. His kid plants her hands on her waist, a pose echoing their runaway mate so perfectly it physically hurts him. She was merely shocked. Cut her some slack. "I'm positive she'll adore us. Her twins didn't even mind when I spilled the secret." He goes completely still. "You shared exactly what?" The pup juts out her jaw stubbornly. "Our truth. The beast side." Terror instantly spikes through his veins. God's kid. "We don't share that with mortals." "They were totally fine with it," she cuts in, beaming with victory. "They found it fascinating. The boy wanted howling lessons, and his sister asked if I possessed monstrous power. Neither of them fled, Papa. Nobody called me a freak." He can only gawk at his offspring, thoughts spinning wildly, youth embracing the very nightmares grown-ups flee from. "Even so, sweetie, should the local wolves discover we leaked our existence—" "Which wolves?" Her innocent inquiry slices right through his dread. "We are packless, Dad. It's just us two. We govern ourselves." That brutally honest logic strikes him like lightning. He'd spent 7 long years obeying the laws of the very monsters who exiled them, upholding customs that offered zero safety, cowering from a society that discarded them regardless. "Since when are you this wise?" he breathes out at last, absolute awe lacing his words. "I was born brilliant." A tiny, fleeting smirk graces her mouth. He stares at his little girl, this phenomenal soul bearing their supernatural curse far better than he ever managed. Her logic is flawless. He had let ancient terrors, past traumas, and obsolete guidelines dictate a life that wasn't theirs anymore. "The final coach departs at 11:15, his pup murmurs, seemingly plucking the idea from his brain. "Run now, and we can intercept them." Checking the time, he sees 10:47. Under 30 minutes remain. Mute with determination, he snatches the fob and they sprint for his pickup. His daughter scrambles aboard, clicking her harness into place swiftly while the big diesel roars to life. "What's the plan when we see her?" she questions, while they tear down the road toward the terminal. "Honestly, no clue," he confesses. "Except you called it. We forge our own path today." Silver Hollow's darkened avenues become mere streaks of light. The shifter's enhanced instincts push outward, desperately trying to pick up her sweet fragrance through the thick glass of the cab. Tires wail against the asphalt at 11:02. His pulse thunders while his gaze sweeps the tiny transit hub. Pure salvation floods his veins upon finding his mate. She's resting on a terminal seat, both twins dozing softly against her sides. "There," the pup points, her harness already popping loose. He slams the shifter into park, but before his boots hit pavement, a dark town car swerves violently toward the seating area. Thugs in tailored coats jump out. Time stretches into agonizing syrup. His mate's gaze snaps up, comprehension flashing into pure horror. She scrambles to shield her little ones, but her human reflexes fall terribly short. The goons snatch the boy, ignoring his terrified shrieks. Somehow, his sister manages to slip away. Spotting the familiar pickup, she sprints directly toward them. "Hell no!" the alpha bellows, exploding outwards. The enforcers hurl the thrashing lad into the rear of their vehicle. Another violently backhands the frantic mother as she claws for her son, dropping her hard against the concrete. Spotting a massive, enraged shifter charging to block their path to the girl, the attackers pause, ultimately choosing flight over a bloody brawl. Filing into their getaway ride, they peel out into darkness. When the wolf finally closes the distance, the sinister vehicle is long gone, its crimson taillights swallowing into the midnight shadows. Chapter 8. Jackson. He watches his mate hold a damp, icy rag against the swelling bruise left by that bastard's hired muscle. She remains perfectly still on the wooden dining stool, though the acrid, coppery scent of pure trauma rolls off her in waves. In the living room, the rescued twin slumbers heavily on the sofa, pillowed against his daughter's legs. The missing boy leaves a suffocating, bloody void inside the tiny cabin. "I have to dial 911, she mutters like a robot, her hand stretching toward his mobile. He softly catches her wrist before she makes contact. "Baby, we absolutely cannot." "Are you insane? Why wouldn't we?" Fury pierces her numb state, her pulse suddenly thumping in his ears. "My son was just abducted." If law enforcement steps in, that bastard vanishes with the boy permanently. The shifter maintains a soft, immovable tone. Billionaire psychos possess endless backup strategies, limitless assets. He watches the broken woman sink further down into her seat. The harsh truth was etched into her features. Even now, the stale scent of panic clung to her skin from the moment he had revealed his beastly form. Yet that fright was utterly eclipsed by a fiercer drive, the primal instinct of a mother fighting for her little boy. "So what's the plan?" Her voice shattered on the words. "I refuse to just wait around while that monster holds my son." From the sofa, Tara broke the heavy silence she had maintained since arriving home. "We need backup." Jackson scoffed, shaking his head. "Right, as if. Who on earth could even handle something like this?" "The pack," Tara stated plainly. Jackson watched Diana's gaze bounce between them, utter bewilderment piercing her grief. "The pack? What are you talking about?" Jackson sighed heavily. "A whole settlement of shifters, people like us, living past the city limits." He observed the gears turning in Diana's head as she frowned, struggling to digest the wild revelation. "Right, so literal werewolves?" she clarified, rushing on before Jackson could even nod. "I suppose that kind of muscle could actually hold off Dominic's goons." Jackson exhaled loudly. "Sure, if they were willing to intervene, which they aren't." "They used to be my family." "Used to be?" Diana questioned. Jackson's features hardened into a scowl. The familiar ache of betrayal flared up again. "We were exiled the moment Tara came into the world." His venomous tone clearly signaled Diana to drop the subject, and she wisely held her tongue. "They have the power, though," Tara pushed back. "They could easily rescue Oliver." "They aren't going to lift a finger," Jackson snapped. "They made their stance perfectly obvious 7 years back. And if you seriously believe Garrett Holden gives a damn about human lives—" "Hold on." Diana bolted upright, her aroma shifting instantly as a sharp spike of realization and thrill flooded her veins. "Did you just say Garrett Holden?" Jackson gave her a puzzled look. "Yeah, what about it?" Her gaze glazed over briefly, caught in a memory. When she finally spoke, a newfound resolve anchored her tone. "Because Dominic has him on a leash. He has all of them under his thumb." "What exactly are you saying?" Jackson shifted closer, his inner beast reacting to the sudden shift in atmosphere. "Back when I was on Dominic's payroll, I tidied his personal study." Diana shot to her feet, marching across the room. "I would catch him on the line, screaming demands at some guy named Holden." Halting, she spun to meet Jackson's eyes. One conversation stands out. Dominic snapped, "I do not give a damn about your nature preservation, Holden. You are going to block that permit, or I will gladly expose exactly what kind of freaks live in your little settlement." Ice flooded Jackson's veins. Dominic was holding their secret over their heads. And the alpha just rolled over and took it. I was totally baffled as to why someone so intimidating would submit to Dominic. It all makes sense now. Her confidence surged with every word. It went way beyond just overheard chats, though. Garrett Holden's name was plastered across countless files, bank statements, shady photos, and heavy-duty stalking logs. Extortion. Jackson exhaled softly as the puzzle pieces snapped into place. He is holding dirt over the entire pack. Not just some dirt, the whole damn graveyard. I read Dominic essentially owns them. Jackson ground his teeth together, a fiery fury igniting in his gut. That absolute piece of trash. It completely explains why they never pushed back when he bulldozed their sacred lands. Here is the kicker, she pressed on, a fierce strategy weaving into her words. I kept my keycard. Dominic completely forgot to revoke it during our messy fallout. Plus, I know the guard rotations and exactly which doors are rigged with high-tech alarms. You are planning a heist on his office, Jackson noted. It was a statement of fact. I am going to liberate your people, Diana corrected smoothly. Hear me out. If we burn the blackmail, Garrett's crew escapes Dominic's grip for the first time in ages. They will be heavily in our debt. Jackson tracked her reasoning, his strategic instincts fully firing up. And their payment for that liberation is retrieving Oliver. Diana nodded. An army of shifters against a bunch of mortal mercenaries. It would be an absolute slaughter. Tara peeked up from the cushions, her expression glowing with newfound faith. They would have no choice but to back us up. It goes from begging for a favor to collecting on a massive IOU. Jackson dragged his fingers through his hair, weighing the lethal stakes. It is basically suicide. If he finds you snooping around his inner sanctum— He stole my baby, she interrupted in a deadpan whisper. I do not care about the risks. Jackson analyzed her expression. The utter hopelessness had morphed into an unbreakable, ironclad resolve. This was the true essence of a mother. A warrior willing to burn the world down to save her blood, he realized. You mentioned still having people on the inside, Jackson drawled out. Folks who could assist in grabbing those documents. A sharp nod from Diana. John Mercer. The guy's been on Dominic's payroll forever, yet you can tell it eats at him. He actually smuggled us out to Silver Hollow. Should anyone flip on that monster, it's John. Is he reliable? I believe so. The man is a father himself. He gets the risks. She heads for the landline. Give me a second to ring him up. Watching her retreat down the hall with the receiver, Jackson pivots to face Tara. His supernatural ears pick up mere snippets, hushed, frantic murmurs broken by heavy silence. Listen carefully, he instructs the girl. You and Amy will remain hidden at Mrs. Peterson's place until the dust settles. Dad, come on. Not up for debate, he cuts in gently. Tonight was too close. I nearly watched Diana and her little ones die. I am not rolling the dice with my daughters. Plus, your sister relies on you. A heavy sigh escapes Tara. All right, but watch your back out there. Swear it. Moments later, Diana walks back in. The anxiety wafting off her hits his wolf senses instantly. We have a deal. He is bringing the files. Jackson's gaze sharpens. That easy? What does he want? To survive Dominic's wrath, her fingers knot together anxiously. Apparently, he has been plotting an escape route for ages. If we liberate the wolves and leak the criminal records, John believes he can vanish into thin air before the boss even blinks. Give me a location, Jackson presses. That derelict logging facility on the outskirts. Tomorrow at 12 sharp. Her eyes lock onto his. Snagging the paperwork is doable, but we have to hit the ground running immediately after. Shredding that leverage means sounding the alarm in Dominic's sanctuary. A single, resolute nod confirms his choice. So the strategy is set. Our guy delivers the goods. We show the wolves they are untethered, earning their muscle to rescue Oliver. What if Garrett says no, she worries. A fleeting amber glow illuminates his irises. Then we jog his memory about pack loyalty. Regardless of our bad blood, making a kid pay for grown-up mistakes is unacceptable. She stretches over the wood surface, gripping his fingers. Whatever the cost. His grip tightens in solidarity. A sudden gale beats against the cottage glass. Looks like rough weather ahead. Chapter 9. Jackson. The derelict logging plant shudders under the fall gusts, sounding exactly like a dying monster's skeleton. The pair takes shelter inside a dilapidated supervisor booth. It provides an ideal vantage point overlooking the dirt track where their contact should appear. Darkness brings a brutal chill, with freezing air bleeding through shattered panes to bite at them. She trembles, hugging her own torso tightly. "Take this," he mutters, peeling off his thick plaid layer and extending it. Sensing her reluctance, he chuckles. "Lycanthrope body heat. I am basically a furnace." The faintest smirk graces her mouth while she pulls the fabric over herself. "Handy. Definitely comes with benefits." He forces a casual tone, fighting the intoxicating rush of having her this close. His heightened instincts catch everything. Her shampoo, the thudding pulse in her chest, the raw heat of her body. She leans into the drywall right next to him, brushing his arm. They both stay put. What is the timeline? She checks her wrist dial as pale lunar beams pierce the grime. 60 minutes, give or take. His gravelly reply betrays his tension. The rendezvous is set for 12 sharp. A heavy hush falls over the tiny booth, loaded with recent trauma. "Listen," she finally whispers, "regarding the reveal earlier, fleeing like that was wrong. I apologize." He snaps his head toward her, caught off guard. Fear is a natural reaction. No sorry needed. Yes, it is. Her eyes lock onto his. Sure, I panicked, but honestly, being pushed away is my normal. "So you burned the bridge first," he rumbles, cutting in. "Better to self-sabotage than wait for the boot." Still, bolting was cowardly, she presses on, finding her spine. "You stepped up for my family out of pure goodness. The bar for guys in my life is literally on the floor. Especially compared to the deadbeat who sired my kids." That venomous tone instantly triggers his inner beast's guarding instincts. "Question for you," he ventures. "What was the appeal? With the boss, I mean." Dragging her legs to her chin, she exhales heavily. "I was 22, fresh out of a 2-year degree. The man was..." She hesitates. "Intimidating, assured. Having an alpha personality single you out is a massive ego boost." "Just a kid," he supplies gently. "And an idiot," she scoffs. "My intro to romance, my absolute first." The life drains from her tone. "I really believed that toxic mess was devotion. I honestly believed giving him offspring would force him to leave his spouse for me." His inner beast snarls at the mere idea of Dominic's hands on her, though Jackson forces the jealousy aside. "Everyone has history they want buried. What's yours?" Shifting the focus, Diana inquires softly. "Tell me about Tara's mom. Who was she?" Jackson stiffens. Suddenly he's transported to that clinical pack residence, witnessing his gorgeous, deeply beloved mate stare at their newborn with absolute revulsion. "Bridget." He fumbles for the right description. "She meant the world to me. A fierce warrior, heir to the leader. Mating with her made me feel like the most fortunate guy on earth." Sensing a deeper pain, Diana stays quiet. "I was incredibly thrilled at Tara's birth." His tone fractures briefly. "A flawless baby sharing my gaze and her mother's defiant jawline. Then the healer handed her over." The grim recollection floods back vividly. Within moments, Bridget's weary expression warped into sheer terror. She suspended the infant far away from her body, treating the child like a deadly plague. "There is no beast inside her," she hissed, dripping with contempt. "She is entirely human, Jackson. Why is she defective?" Revulsion makes him shake his head, prompting Diana to grasp his fingers in a stabilizing hold. She refused to touch or even glance at the baby ever again, he exhales, the agonizing truth bleeding from unhealed scars. A deep gloom consumed her, driven by humiliation rather than grief. I raised our daughter solo while she barricaded herself in the bedroom. The haunting sound of his starving infant wailing in the desolate house still rings in his ears, while the mother cowered away. I convinced myself it would pass, that she would eventually recognize our little girl's perfection. A cynical chuckle escapes him. I was completely fooling myself. "Where did it go from there?" Diana probes softly. He shuts his eyelids against the piercing recollection. At 6 months postpartum, I returned from a patrol to discover her stuffing clothes into a suitcase. She claimed she was done faking affection for a broken infant. Our subsequent argument was absolutely savage. He vividly recalls begging her to stay, desperately trying to prove their baby was flawless without a wolf. Yet her resolve was ironclad. "We have to surrender her," she had insisted. "We can begin again and breed a proper heir." She planned to just dump her, he murmurs, his voice barely a breath. Hand her off to random humans and erase her memory. Her fingers squeeze his tightly. My God. My refusal sent her crying to her dad. His tone turns to ice. The revered leader I had worshipped since childhood. He backed his daughter without hesitation. That intense showdown inside the leader's study replays behind his eyes in agonizing clarity. The patriarch lounged at his enormous table, his daughter sobbing theatrically at his shoulder, while Jackson remained standing, shielding the half-year-old infant against his heart. "The brat has no beast, Hayes," the older man declared. "She endangers our safety and broadcasts our flawed bloodline. My daughter speaks the truth. Send her to the mortal realm." "This is your own flesh and blood," he had bellowed. "And why banish her to mortals? Even a nip from her could be lethal to them." "She is an error," the leader answered with icy detachment. "Here is your only option. Dump the kid, or you both get banished. Choose." "That was my final warning," he murmurs. "Abandon my baby, or face permanent exile." A noise of absolute fury escapes Diana. "Banished, just for shielding your own kid. A lone shifter is practically handed a death sentence." "Exactly," he nods. "Our species runs on community. We require the ranks, the order, and the protection of the group." The old man assumed I would crack in a fortnight and return begging, leaving her behind. He vividly recalls that initial solitary evening, parked at a fuel pump with only $17, a screaming infant, and zero destination. The utter loneliness felt suffocating, acting like a literal boulder crushing his lungs. "But it taught me true resilience," he reveals. "Not alpha power, but a parent's grit. The drive that forces you to battle the entire universe to keep your baby safe." She edges near him. Her body heat offers a soothing balm to his ancient scars. "I totally get it," she murmurs. Dominic treating Amy and Oliver like property rather than real kids when he tried to snatch them away. That absolute lack of love is the most painful part, right? He locks gazes with her. "Our mates didn't merely backstab us. They threw our kids to the wolves." A heavy quiet settles over them. Their shared trauma weaves an invisible tether between them. He had never unveiled the complete, ugly truth of his daughter's arrival to another soul. The utter ruin of watching his supposedly eternal life crumble to ash. "Do you realize the most difficult hurdle? It was figuring out how to let people in," he admits. Hoping somebody out there would value her soul rather than judge her lack of fangs. Pivoting to give him her complete attention, she asks, "And today, do you feel ready to take that leap again?" He shifts closer, his voice dropping. "The thought of losing the only true family we've ever known absolutely paralyzes me." A soft gasp escapes her parted lips. The distance separating them vanishes, heavy with unspoken tension and mutual yearning. Headbeams suddenly wash over the plaster. They jump away from each other, senses spiking, while he rushes to inspect through the boarded-up glass. "Dark four-door," he murmurs tensely. "Might be our guy, or maybe the Alpha's enforcers." She sidles up beside him, their bodies brushing. "That's definitely our contact's ride," she whispers. That crater on the side panel is unmistakable. He analyzes her side profile, the fierce gaze and stubbornly clenched chin. "Through all—" "Stay put," he murmurs. "I'll head out." "Absolutely not." Her fierce delivery shuts down the debate instantly. "We have a rapport. He feels comfortable with me, so I have to make the exchange." Slipping outside before he can argue, she gives his fingers a rapid squeeze. From his vantage point, he observes her navigating the timber storage, gliding between patches of darkness like a ghost. The handoff takes mere seconds. Their informant steps out, passes along a beige folder, and peels off into the dark. She strides back indoors, radiating absolute victory. "We did—" Those aren't my subordinates now, he mutters, though his tone sounds completely hollow. They will return to you, she pushes back. Wait until they realize you fought for them, proving true allegiance. Staring at this incredible female who had confronted literal beasts, mundane and magical alike, without blinking, a massive epiphany slams into him. He's fallen completely. That truth scares him worse than their enemies. Falling for her paints a target on her back, dragging her deeper into his violent reality. How could he endanger his mate? Hey, what's wrong? She presses, catching his shifted demeanor. Bypassing the question, he simply drags her into a fierce embrace, burying her against him. We will rescue your boy, he whispers into her strands. I swear it. She burrows closer. I believe you. Morning would bring war against the Alpha and his wolves. Dawn meant risking it all, but right now they possessed this forged bond. Two shattered souls connecting, having survived toxic pasts only to discover true devotion in each other. Chapter 10. Her Perspective. His pickup's high beams slice the early morning gloom while pulling onto the neighborhood road. Her eyelids feel like sandpaper. Her fingers maintain a death grip on the gathered files like a magical shield. Driving through the darkness, their sole pause was dialing the rogue faction from a roadside booth. The conversation was hostile, yet an agreement formed. We're basically back, he whispers, grabbing her fingers gently. That single word brings her joy, which instantly turns to ice as they curve around the last bend. An ominous dark car idles by the curb, glaringly out of place against his modest property. Please, God, she chokes out, sheer terror rising. He slams the brakes, his grip turning pale against the leather. Don't move from this seat, he commands, though she's actively throwing the handle open. Not a chance, she bites back. My girls are inside. Rushing the property as a unit, he takes the lead, muscles coiled for violence. The entrance gapes wide open, casting yellow illumination across the steps. She pants frantically while crossing the threshold. The sight waiting within the living room absolutely destroys her. The Alpha lounges in the recliner, posing like royalty atop a stolen seat. His tailored fabrics clash terribly with the fading upholstery. A pair of stone-faced enforcers shadow him, sporting ridiculous indoor shades. The girls cower on the sofa, clutching each other in absolute terror. What have you done with my son? She screams, her gaze darting wildly. He flashes a grin completely devoid of warmth. He's fine at the moment. A lazy hand waves toward the girls. I really just required a single bargaining chip. Looks like she lost the lottery. A monstrous, rumbling snarl rips from Jackson's throat. She latches onto his arm with crushing force, anchoring her own sanity while restraining his attack. Why are you doing this? She demands, despite sensing the answer. I want my wife back. Fiddling with his expensive wristwear, he feigns boredom. You honestly believed I'd permit your escape? Allow you to steal my heirs? They are mine, she hisses viciously. You never even cared about them. You kept them entirely hidden. Dominic simply swats the air, ignoring her accusation completely. The kids spilled everything, your hideout, your little accomplices. His calculating eyes flick toward Jackson, sizing up the threat. Though Oliver conveniently skipped a few fascinating traits regarding your latest guard dog. Tara squirms on the sofa, shooting Diana an incredibly pointed stare. The child's face screams caution. She kept their hidden truth completely under wraps. We are done playing games, Diana. Dominic pushes on. Pack your things. I'm keeping Amy overnight for leverage. You get the kids once you are relocated to the distant property I set up. She stays right here. Jackson's tone rumbles with a lethal, quiet intensity. A biting chuckle escapes Dominic. Who plans to stop me? Some washed-up grease monkey? This city belongs to me. I control the Silver Creek lands. Glass shudders violently as a chorus of deafening snarls tears through the darkness. That feral, menacing cacophony engulfs the property, prompting Dominic's hired muscle to instantly pull out their firearms. What in the world was that? Suddenly the entryway gets kicked wide open. A hulking figure completely blocks the entrance, backed by several imposing companions. The Silver Creek Pack Alpha, Garrett Holden, steps in. Golden irises blaze with fury. "You own absolutely nothing, Morris," he snarls. "Not today." Dominic stands up, his features burning red. "Stay out of my business, Holden. We made a deal. That deal is dead." Garrett marches inside, trailing half a dozen wolves behind him. "Your little intimidations do not scare my people anymore." Realization hits Dominic like a truck as his gaze bounces from Diana to the folded papers she grips tightly. "You wouldn't." "We absolutely did," Diana replies, pure triumph lacing her tone. "All the extortion material is completely destroyed." Dominic finally loses his cool. "This is far from finished," he spits. "Expect retaliation." "Get out," Garrett barks over him. "Grab your goons and walk away while breathing." For a breathless second, violence brews around Dominic. Then, cold logic re-enters his gaze, and he sharply yanks his suit lapels straight. "I am not done here," he reiterates, signaling his guards. The thugs retreat outside, guns raised. "My children remain right here," Diana states with unwavering resolve. An icy smirk crosses Dominic's lips. "Temporarily. I will come back for my kids." Mark my words. Once that black car vanishes down the asphalt, Diana practically dives toward Amy, squeezing her tight. Jackson hoists Tara, pulling the girl tight while tension bleeds from his features. "What about Oliver?" Diana begs the alpha. "He is completely unharmed," the wolf leader assures her. "My people snagged him before they arrived." Diana weeps happily, crushing Amy directly against her chest. Jackson drops to the floorboards, keeping Tara secured while grabbing Diana's trembling fingers. Briefly, they simply hold on to one another. A broken family united by trauma. The werewolf pack observes quietly, offering both an absolute shield and a vow. Their isolation is finally over. Chapter 11. Jackson. Warm, amber sunshine floods the grass. Resting on the wooden stairs, Jackson feels a deep inner peace, far hotter than the fall sunlight. Nearby, Diana rests her weight on his arm, lacing their hands together. Out front, a trio of kids sprints around the grass. Joyous echoes float through the wind. "Gotcha!" Tara screams, smacking Oliver's back before sprinting off, red hair whipping wildly. Oliver laughs hard, spinning around to hunt down Amy, who shrieks and dives behind a massive oak trunk. These recent weeks successfully erase the haunted looks from their faces, bringing healthy pink hues back. They seem totally normal today. No longer captives or strays, simply little ones goofing around in their own backyard. Home. That concept still tightens Jackson's throat. Following endless years of guarded solitude, his tiny residence now overflows with chaotic, beautiful existence. "What is on your mind?" Diana murmurs, gently stroking his skin. "Just realizing how drastically my world shifted," Jackson confesses. 30 days ago, I was terrified to connect." A genuine grin lights up Diana's face, making Jackson's pulse skip a beat, just like always. "Well, now you are trapped with 4 roommates." "I frankly prefer it." Jackson lifts their tangled fingers, kissing her soft skin. Their shifting dynamic felt entirely organic and slow, transforming heavy anxiety into pure affection. Panic slowly transformed into faith. They took things incredibly slow, each recovering from their own dark histories. Yet, the quiet assurance of a profound bond deepens constantly. Tara, especially, has truly blossomed. Free from the heavy shadows of hiding her true nature, she thrives as a fierce guardian for Amy and Oliver. Being trapped in human form used to bring her agony. Today, it feels like a blessing. It makes her the perfect ambassador, seamlessly walking the line connecting wolves and humanity. Rumbling engines echo up the road, instantly snapping Jackson to high alert. A pair of heavy pickups crawls toward the house. He catches their distinct scents long before recognizing anyone through the windshields. "Wolves," he breathes, bracing his stance. Diana grips his fingers. "I'll usher the little ones indoors." "Stay," he replies instantly. "We meet them as one." Alpha Garrett Holden emerges from the first vehicle, trailed by his second-in-command and a trio of enforcers. The group advances slowly, still honoring the invisible borders of his land. Tara rushes to anchor herself against Jackson's leg, while Amy and Oliver trail behind her, hesitant. Rising to his full height, he pulls Diana close, turning their mismatched household into an impenetrable wall on the veranda. "Alpha?" he greets smoothly, bowing his head an inch. "Hayes." Garrett's rumbling tone drips with inherited power. "Your homestead seems to be thriving." In shifter culture, those few words mean everything. A formal admission of his triumph over banishment. "We bring a proposition," the leader presses on. "The elders reconsidered your situation. Now that Dominic's reign is over and his dark deeds are public, everything is different." Bracing himself, Jackson anticipates the punchline. "Silver Creek is ready to bring you home," Garrett announces with absolute stiff ceremony. "Full membership for both you and your girl." 7 winters past, that promise would have been his ultimate salvation. True community, undeniable roots, and ironclad protection for his child among their kind. Beside his hip, Tara goes completely rigid, holding her breath for his answer. "I appreciate the extreme generosity," he replies measuredly. Naturally, the human and her offspring could reside nearby, safely guarded beneath your shadow. He immediately senses Diana bristling beside him, insulted by being treated like a mere accessory instead of an equal. A soft grin touches his lips, reading her mind effortlessly. "I am truly honored, sir," he answers with absolute sincerity. "However, we are perfectly fine right here." The leader's eyes widen. "You'd actively embrace the lone wolf life?" "I am embracing my family," he amends softly. "This exact house, the future we are forging." Diana's fingers seamlessly interlock with his own. That simple contact speaks volumes he could never articulate. "Silver Hollow is my dominion now," he states firmly. The Alpha analyzes the group silently, a profound dawn of realization washing over his face. "The door is always unlocked," he eventually concedes, "in case your heart ever shifts." "That means the world to us," he answers back. "And Silver Creek will forever find friends on this soil." As the visitors drive away, the evening sun dips low, splashing the clouds with explosive strokes of tangerine and rose. Instantly, the kids dive right back into their games, completely unfazed by the intense encounter. Diana pivots to face him, cerulean gaze intensely scanning his expression. "Any regrets?" "They were literally handing you your old life back on a silver platter." He gently shakes his head, pulling her into his chest. "Not quite everything. The best treasures are the ones you discover yourself." His palm cradles her face, gently stroking the edge of her mouth. "Certain ties run far deeper than ancient shifter laws," he whispers. "Like destiny?" she challenges playfully. "No," he answers with deep sincerity. "Like free will. I actively pick this reality day after day." "I pick you." As their lips finally crash together, it does not feel like a fresh start, but rather an ultimate homecoming. It is the inevitable destination of a wild ride that kicked off that very first afternoon among the trees. Stretching onto her toes, she loops her arms tightly around his shoulders, her form molding flawlessly against his chest like 2 puzzle pieces snapping together. Suddenly, a dramatic gagging noise from Tara, chased by a chorus of childish snickers, shatters the romantic tension. Chuckling against his mouth, she creates an inch of space between them. "You're my choice too," she murmurs. "Claws, fangs, and everything else." As evening shadows claim the town, the banished shifter-turned-mechanic, devoted dad, and fierce guardian remains planted on his deck. Bathed in an affection he never deemed himself worthy of, anchored by a household he never saw coming, he has finally, undeniably, arrived home.